A new candy shop opened up by me here in Westchester. And I took my daughter a couple of weeks ago. And when I walked in, even though I had my mask covering my nose and my mouth, the smell overwhelmed me and really actually brought me to tears. Because when I was a little girl, I was literally a kid in a candy shop because my grandparents owned a candy store on the Cape May boardwalk in New Jersey. And I used to get to hang out in the candy store all the time. And I got very nostalgic when I smelled the aroma of the nuts and the fudge and the chocolates and all the novelties and things that they had. And it brought me back to that time in my life when I was probably 10 or 12 years old when they sold it. But I remembered very clearly all the time we spent at their house in Cape May. They had a tiny little 2-bedroom house, and all of us would squeeze in there for the summer. It never bothered me, but it must have driven my parents crazy. I don't know how we all fit in this little house, but it was pure magic. And I started thinking about all of the things from when I was a kid that used to capture my attention there. My Pop-Pop's big white recliner, and I would sit in that and pretend I was going to the dentist and go back in the chair. And he had a little white rotary phone, and I would sit there and I would dial those numbers on the phone over and over and over again. And there was a metal stool that we used to fight over that one of the kids had to sit at the dinner table. And you always wanted to sit on the stool. It was tall and it was rickety and you might fall over, but it was like a prize if you got to sit on the stool. And they had a big bush of lilacs in the backyard, and you could almost walk through it like a tunnel. And as a little kid, to look up and just be surrounded by lilacs on all sides. And there was a closet out back, and the door would always stick on the cement, and they called it the frog house. And you could always look in the frog house and find a croquet set or a kickball or something to play with. And there was an old phone booth in the yard that nobody used anymore, back in the corner of the yard. And we would go hang out in the phone booth and play all kinds of Superman games. And I was sitting my kids down and just going on and on about these. And I was getting very upset because my emotions almost turned into grief that all of these things are gone in my life and that my kids wouldn't experience all these things that were such wonderful memories to me in my childhood. And I started telling my kids about the wallpaper in the kitchen that had pictures of spices and herbs repeated in a pattern. And it had all the names: sage, dill, coriander, rosemary, parsley, sage, dill, coriander, rosemary, parsley. And my daughter said, "Oh, like at Granny and Pop's house where they have that painting by the door that says ferns, marigolds, something, something." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And she said, "Oh, I love to look at that picture by the front door that has the pictures, ferns, marigolds, pansies, whatever." And it was something that I had never even noticed. And so this is at my parents' house in Florida, where I take my kids to visit their grandparents. And then they started talking about, "Oh, I can't wait to go back and ride in the golf cart. And I can't wait till we go out looking for alligators. Oh, and the drawer that has the plastic sword that we got at Disney World that one time. And we play pirates under the orange tree out back. And oh, and to go into Granny's closet and try on her shoes. And oh, and Granny has those special juice glasses and they live in the wire rack in the kitchen." And I was overwhelmed. And finally, I realized the most beautiful thing, that all the magic doesn't go away. You just have to sometimes look at it when you're grown up from the eyes of a kid. So that's my story about being grown up. And we shouldn't grieve our losses. We should just look at them through the eyes of a child, maybe.